There was a time where I kept shrinking myself. I kept trying to become smaller and smaller so that I could be easier to love. So I became less emotional, less needy, less honest about what I truly wanted. And I didn't know it then, but that's the pick-me trap. And it's not just me, it's most women. Welcome back, guys and gals, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Jess. I'm a relationship coach, and I help you become someone who naturally attracts the relationship and life you desire by raising your self-worth, your feminine confidence, and your standards so you become a natural match to the love and life you want. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, make sure you stick around and hit subscribe because that's what we do here every week together. Today, we're going to talk about the pick-me trap, what it actually is, why smart women are often the ones that fall into it the fastest, what the actual cost is, and the shift that you can implement today to either get out of it or avoid it in the future. So what is the pick-me trap? Well, the pick-me trap is where you get stuck in this performing mode. Your biggest goal is to be selected by whomever you're seeing, and you're consistently auditing yourself through the other person's eyes. So you're getting rid of these layers of yourself that you don't think somebody else will like. Now, this is where shadow work actually comes in and plays a huge role, but we'll save that for another video. But overall, this pick-me trap is where you are shrinking yourself and really peeling away all of those beautiful layers that actually make you, your true authentic self, because you fear that that is not what the other person wants, the guy you're dating wants. And so you try to morph into this version of you that you think will be chosen by the person you're dating. Like that becomes the only goal. And it's really subconscious. We don't really know we're doing this. And it comes from, our past, what we've gone through, how we have felt we need to survive in life, especially as children. And so when I realized that I kept editing myself and I kept peeling away these layers, I realized that when I did that in relationships, the relationships didn't even last. Like there was really no hope for them when I didn't know that at that time. But because I had edited myself so much to be this version that I thought the other person would love more, would choose, would want to be around, would want to, secure me, would want to marry me, any of those things, I realized that I was actually no longer myself. And it's pretty inevitable. Your true colors will always come out. So this version of you that you created that maybe the guy actually liked is not sustainable. And so your true colors start to come out and you kind of have this like internal battle that can happen with yourself because we're still trying to be perfect. We're still trying to perform. And so when we are in that relationship now, and he started to like us for somebody that we're not, it's not even really us, then our true colors start to come out. That's where so much friction happens. So really, we need to stop auditioning so that we can allow ourselves to connect. Because that is what true love is. It's when somebody loves you for who you authentically are. And that's when you become the most magnetic, when you really step in to that version of you that you were always meant to be. So if after hearing that, you realize like, okay, I've been stuck in this trap and I need to get out of it, and you're someone who is ready to become the person who naturally attracts the relationship and life you want, I will leave my book a call link in the description below so you can book a free relationship call with me. We can chat, see where you're at, see where you want to be, and see if we're a good fit to work together. Here's why smart women fall into this. First and foremost, we have to understand that this is not your fault at all, okay? This is not a weakness. This is a wound that was developed back when you were a child. This was your nervous system's way of protecting you, of keeping you alive. So first and foremost, we can thank our nervous system and that part of us for keeping us safe back when we really needed it. The cool thing is now we're adults and we get to take radical control of our lives and create our reality.
I'll show you how valuable our woods can be.
And so I know that can be really cool, but also really confronting because we do have total control over what is happening in our lives. Remember, our internal identity is what creates our external reality. So this wound, it came from a place of fear, of survival mode, of tying our self-worth to being chosen by somebody. And so our brain, back to our nervous system, our brain actually has a part called the RAS, the reticular activating system, that keeps reinforcing that belief of my self-worth is dependent on if I'm chosen. I am not worthy unless I'm chosen. I need to survive, which as children, that is all we're trying to do in this world. We're trying to belong and we're trying to survive. So our RAS is constantly looking for information to support that belief of I need to be chosen, or am I enough, or I'm not enough, or will he choose me? Your brain will constantly filter out anything in your reality so that it can prove that, because your brain, it loves familiarity. It doesn't care what you want. It doesn't care your deepest desires. It doesn't care, what you're trying to create in your life. It cares most about keeping you safe. And what feels safe is what it already knows. So that's why we get stuck in those patterns. And we have to understand that the more we abandon ourselves, the more we become less ourselves, the further away we get from that person, that woman, that the man we're dating would actually be choosing. So we can start off as this polished, perfect princess, but as time goes on, it's really hard to maintain that identity, like I said before. So we want to be able to show up as our true, authentic selves because, like I mentioned, that is real love. That is where sustainable relationships come from. When you show up as your whole authentic self and somebody else shows up as their whole authentic self, you don't complete each other, more so you complement each other and you accept each other as you are. That is what we want to get to in our relationships. Here's the cost of being in the pick-me trap. You don't just lose the relationship, you lose yourself. And so that's one of the most dangerous places we can be in our life, because it means that we're not achieving our dreams, going after what we want, being who we are, showing up as we authentically are meant to show up. And what happens is that turns off our magnetism, that turns off our ability to receive and to grow and to really enjoy and be so fulfilled with this life that we have. And so when we keep peeling back away those layers of authenticity and we edit ourselves, we refine ourselves, we kind of show up as this shell of our former selves. And we say, well, nope, this is love. This is me being a good partner. This is me showing up for him the way he needs me to show up. And we have to realize that our needs are so important. And so I went through a couple decades of really sacrificing who I was because I wanted to be chosen. I wanted somebody to love me. I wanted somebody to pick me. And that sacrifice, it led to me being unfulfilled. It led to me not growing. It really held me back in everything, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if I'm filtering myself for a man, I'm filtering myself everywhere I go. Friendships, career, everywhere. And so what I found was the smaller and smaller I became, the more unhappy I became and the less successful I became. And it's so interesting because after my last relationship, before I met Jeff, when we broke up, I promised myself that I will only be who I want to be. And I got really, really clear on who I wanted to be. And it's not necessarily transforming into somebody new. It's just uncovering the person that you were meant to be, who you came on this planet to be. That's why they say all these desires, you're meant to have them. And it's because you have this deep inner knowing of I am meant for more. I am meant for all these things that I truly want. But as we grow up throughout life, from being children to teenagers to adults, we collect all of this programming, this conditioning, and it really puts all of these kind of layers over who we're really meant to be. Instead of instead of peeling back those authenticity layers, what we really need to peel back is all that pain. We need to just remove and scrape all that off so that we can actually get to the core of who we are. So when we talk about becoming the woman we want to be, it's becoming the woman we authentically are. We just need to uncover her. And so I had to get really clear on what that looked like for me, because in my last relationship, I was somebody who was dimming my own light. And it's really easy at the end of a relationship. You're like, oh, it was his fault. Da-da-da. It's like, no. It was my fault. It was 100% my fault, the choices I made and how I was dimming myself and not making my needs known and not showing up as my authentic self. And so when we did break up, I got really clear on the woman that I wanted to be. All those desires, I made sure that I was putting those at the forefront. And that's actually how I think I manifested and called in Jeff, because I would refuse to dim my light. I refused to settle and edit and curate who I think a man would want to choose. And I just got so selfish in the best way, where it's like, anybody that wants to be around me is going to have to accept me for just who I am. That's the deal here. And so that was one thing that I repeated to him over and over, and why I was excited too, because at the time, as we know, if you listen to the backstory, I was not dating. I did not want to date at all. But one of the reasons why I was like, wow, this is such a great compliment to my life, is because he allowed me to show up and be exactly who I was. And I would tell him that. I was like, you allow me to be who I am. And I love it, because I also noticed when I was who I was, I attracted so many opportunities. So not only had I attracted Jeff, who accepted me for who I am and loves me authentically and still loves me authentically as I am, but I started to attract all these amazing opportunities. All these doors started to open. All these amazing people started to come into my life. And, I found my dream cottage. I built a 6-figure business. I was able to start traveling the world full time with Jeff and meet amazing people and have these amazing experiences. And so it really comes down to, are you showing up as your authentic self every single day? And if you are not conditioned to do that yet, it takes some practice, and that's okay. Again, if you want help becoming the woman who naturally attracts the relationship and life you desire, my book a call link is in the description below. You can book a free relationship call with me, because this work is so near, dear, and personal to my heart, because I've seen the transformation that it has, and it's so necessary just so that you can really, really become that future you, the woman you want to become, the woman you were always meant to be. Here's the shift you need to get out of the pick-me trap. You need to decide to choose yourself. And so you need to really ask yourself, when you are dating, when you are with somebody, maybe you're with somebody right now where some questions are coming up. Does this man compliment me? Does this man fit the life and support the life that I truly want to build for myself? And this is so, so important, because then we take control over our life. And it's okay if he's not the right person, and maybe it's just not right now too. Maybe there's some more growth that both of you need to go through, but right now you're in this era of, I'm choosing myself first, and I want to show up as my authentic self. And so making this decision to choose, it really comes from a grounded, secure place. It comes from a place of, I know my person is out there, and I'm not going to settle for anything less than I want and deserve. And so we also have to realize we're not like playing any games here. We're just really grounded in our worth. Our self-worth is so important, and we need to make sure it stays high so that we understand that we truly deserve this life that we want to build, that we want for ourselves. Remember, all those desires, you have them for a reason. Your authentic self is truly meant to have them. And so we just need to get back there. And so first, let's just become aware. Let's get the clarity about, okay, am I showing up as my authentic self? How am I filtering myself? How am I editing myself? Am I curating myself to fit somebody else? Who would I be if I showed up truly authentic every single day? This is where elevating our standards, not just for our relationships, but for ourselves, for our life, really come into play, because your standards are a reflection of your self-worth. So if you keep settling for less than you truly deeply want, my girl, It's time to raise those standards because you deserve so much more. Here's what you can start doing today to begin to shift yourself out of this pick-me trap. Whether you are in a relationship or you're in your dating era, ask yourself, do I feel more like myself when I'm with him, or do I feel less like myself when I'm with him? That's a really important question to ask, because if you feel more like yourself, like I told you in my story, how I felt nothing but myself when I was around Jeff and I was so happy and he was accepting of exactly who I was, and vice versa, I was accepting of who he authentically was too, then amazing. But if you find yourself filtering or editing, curating, auditing yourself constantly, or feeling that feeling of shame if you somehow, do come out of your shell when you're with him, you're like, ooh, maybe I was too much. Pay attention to that. Like, where are you performing, or where are you being yourself? Where are you being totally present with who you authentically want to be? Remember, the goal of dating, the goal of finding your person is not to be chosen. You are already enough exactly as you are. You need to choose yourself. The goal is for you to choose wisely, because this is your partner that you want to have for the rest of your life. And so what kind of experiences are you going to be able to experience with a partner who doesn't accept you for who you are? But then on the other hand, what kind of experiences and what kind of life are you going to be able to live when you do choose a partner who accepts you exactly as you are? All right, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I am so happy you're here. This was a fun one, and this topic really speaks so deep in my heart and in my soul, because I understand if you're in the pick-me trap, my girl, I have been there. And that is why I offer one-to-one coaching. I will leave my book a call link in the description below, so you can book a free relationship call with me if you are ready to become someone who naturally attracts the relationship and life you desire. We can chat, see where you're at, see where you want to be, and see if we're a good fit to work together. And as always, remember, self-love isn't optional. It's a foundation for the relationship and life you desire. I'll see you in the next video.